provide unique light and energy so that you have the energy of the moon at night. And sometimes you've heard the word full moon. Sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases. And that's why the question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that? The sun is a mighty powerful heat that is almost impossible to go near the sun. The moon is more manageable, and you will see in a moment, or not a moment, you'll see in a couple of years that NASA is going back to the moon.
Okay, Elon Musk, I think you gotta hire her. Right? Because, she's making an argument there. She's just trying to tell us we can live on the sun. Oh my goodness. I mean, she is something else, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not kidding. We got a lot of stupid people in Washington, D.C. A lot of stupid people. I think we have to see it again. And then I have to take you over to The View because I got a good long clip of the stupidity. You have to see it, right? Like, you need to know. People in the media, they're dumb. People in Congress are pretty dumb. And these are the people that are deciding our fate, and you wonder why gold is nearly $2,400 an ounce? Okay, Sheila, take it away. Again.
Provide unique light and energy so that you have the energy of the moon at night. And sometimes you've heard the word full moon. And sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases. And that's why the question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that? The sun is a mighty powerful heat that is almost impossible to go near the sun. The moon is more manageable, and you will see in a moment, or not a moment, you'll see in a couple of years that NASA is going back to the moon.
Did she just say that we're going to go to the moon? I don't want to make you listen to it again. So at least you did get that the sun was pretty hot, right? And that we can't go there. Unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable that this woman was actually one of our U.S. representatives for so long. Just remember that. This is the people. These people are deciding policy and your fate and my fate and our children's fate. Oh, dear. And then it's just as bad. I'm sorry, on the media side, you hear me complain about this a lot. I mean, they've got such bias. It's so obvious. And when they don't have such bias, they're just these like prompter readers that read anything. I worked at Bloomberg once and there was a young woman there, not that young actually, but they wrote everything in the prompter, including her name. And they got it wrong because they thought it was like for another anchor. And she literally read, "Hello, I'm so-and-so." Like live on the air. I mean, it's great. Like there's just not a lot of connectivity up there. And they're just on autopilot reading. So that's what you get in the media. Or you get people who think they're smart, like this Sunny Houston lady over on The View. And she's got to have Whoopi Goldberg correcting her. I played a little snippet yesterday, but now I got the whole thing. So you got to watch this. It's fantastic and hysterical. You say cicada, I say cicada. Remember that.
We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
Cicadas.
Oh, for the first time in like
No.
100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read. Two different times.
Two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad
But
cicadas.
for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe maybe you know better. But
in a
I would
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists or something is really going on.
Returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's
Or-
around.
it happens, and the
When you
eclipse,
take
known about the eclipse coming. because
17
eclipses
years
happen.
with the cycle for the cicadas and a 13-year cycle for eclipses. sometimes when you do the math, they
The media is not
coincide.
that bright. Our lawmakers are not that bright. And consequently, we're kind of up a creek without a paddle, as they might say. But this has been a long time in the making. Like a really long time in the making, guys. I want to take you back to 1987. I was a freshman in high school. And Donald Trump was 41 years old. It's funny, like I always thought of him as older.
That's when I was a freshman.
As a kid, and I might have watched this back
Me
then.
and Trish were the same age.
But take a look at this. He's on Larry King. And I just pulled a couple clips because it's fascinating. They try and say he's dumb. They try and discount him. But this is a man who has been on a mission forever. And that mission has not changed. Let's take it away, Larry King and Donald Trump.
Yeah, I was tired, and I think a lot of people are tired of watching other countries ripping off the United States. This is a great country. They laugh at us. Behind our backs, they laugh at us because of our own stupidity and the leaders. I mean, what we have a Persian Gulf situation. You saw what happened today. Billions and billions of dollars are being spent on getting oil for Japan, and they're not paying anything for it. Essentially, they're paying nothing for it. We have tankers going back and forth that our men are protecting, losing their lives. I mean, they're losing their lives, Larry. We're spending billions and billions on protection, and those tankers are going over to Japan. It's just preposterous. I watched the Kuwaiti oil minister the other day laughing as he was explaining how much money they intend to make with the Bridgeton, which has been a total disaster, the Bridgeton. And I said to myself, isn't that a shame? He's talking about how much money they're going to make, and here we are. He's smiling and laughing. Why don't we get some of it? Why is it that we're protecting? We have frogmen, we have helicopters, we have aircraft carriers, and all sorts of ships all over the Persian Gulf, so that this man and his little group can make a lot of money. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, one of the reasons we say we're doing it is because we've been doing it. That all previous presidents have endorsed doing it. I guess the kind of thinking of an entrepreneur is because somebody else said it was right doesn't make it right, right?
Larry, the country is losing $200 billion a year. $200 billion. This country cannot continue to lose $200 billion. Japan is one of the wealthiest machines ever created. Saudi Arabia, and it's not, hey, let me tell you, I'm a big beneficiary of Japan. They buy my apartments in spades. They're fine people, but they're laughing to themselves as to what's happening over here. We're not kidding ourselves. They're laughing to themselves, Larry, as to what's happening to this country.
Wow. I mean, we're losing a lot more than 200 billion now, so that's changed. And yet, and some of the players have changed, and yet the themes are consistent. So in other words, back then, he was making the point that our international foreign policy was really messed up, and it was not putting America first. We're a great country, but other people are benefiting from this greatness because we're out there protecting everyone. And he's saying, hey, you know, we should be a little more strategic about this because aren't we just protecting their interests instead of ours? And Larry King saying, you know, this is just the way we've always done it. Like it's always gone this way for as long as we know. Maybe we need a fresh perspective. Maybe that's what somebody who's an entrepreneur, somebody in the business sphere brings to the table. Well, that's what Donald Trump did bring. But the government didn't want it. The establishment didn't want it because, you see, the establishment has a very established way of doing things. And when you start to rock the boat, forget about it. And, you know, you don't have shareholders that can vote your stock up and down. You just have everyday Americans that get to have a say every 4 years. But they're hanging on for dear life right now. Because things aren't good. Trump knew it back then. He knows it now. I think we have another clip I want to show you because this is important to understand. As much as they say, oh, he's just doing this for political reasons, this, that, and the other. No. He was singing the same tune back in 1987 at 41 years old. Watch.
We say we're doing it is because we've been doing it. That all previous presidents have endorsed doing it. I guess the kind of thinking of an entrepreneur is because somebody else said it was right doesn't make it right, right?
Larry, the country is losing $200 billion a year. $200 billion. This country cannot continue to lose $200 billion. Japan is one of the wealthiest machines ever created. Saudi Arabia, and it's not, hey, let me tell you, I'm a big beneficiary of Japan. They buy my apartments in spades. They're fine people, but they must be, they're laughing to themselves as to what's happening over here. We're not kidding ourselves. They're laughing to themselves, Larry, as to what's happening in this country.
But Donald, a lot of people feel the way you feel, and a lot of people maybe with as much money, or certainly some people with as much money feel the way you feel. Why did you go public?
Because somebody had to, Larry. I watch it again, and it's a very important point. Japan is a money machine. Saudi Arabia is a money machine. Kuwait, these are money machines, the greatest ever created. The United States is, if it were a corporation, it would be bankrupt. It's losing $200 billion a year. For years now it's been losing that. What right do we have to go out and defend? Why aren't these countries, these wealthy money machines, paying us for the defense of their freedom and their nations? Why aren't they paying us?
We are kind of the world's keeper, are we not?
I don't believe we should be. I think Japan should certainly make a contribution. Japan is one of the reasons they're so successful is they don't have to worry about defense, because why should they worry about defense when the United States will do it for nothing? I mean, it's crazy. Saudi Arabia, I mean, you saw what happened with Saudi Arabia. We're going through the Gulf. We have old-fashioned, obsolete minesweepers. We ask Saudi Arabia for the use of their minesweepers, which are the best made, the most modern, the best, and they say no. Who are they to tell us no? We're not going to give you our minesweepers. It's ridiculous. They're only there for the sake of us as far as that's concerned. We are protective of Saudi Arabia. They should pay for that.
Are we going to be hearing more from Mr. Trump on issues like this as we go along?
I really don't know, Larry. This is an issue that's been bothering me. It's been bothering a lot of people that I know, and I think it's an issue that had to be brought out to the fore. The concept of America financing and paying and losing lives for countries that won't even allow us to use their ships. And these are the countries that in 24 hours they'd be wiped off the face of the earth if it weren't for America. It's ridiculous.
By the way, a couple of other things, and we'll take some calls for Donald Trump. Is it true that you're going to go to New Hampshire in October at the invitation of Mike Dunbar, who's heading a group called Draft Donald Trump?
Well, I was asked about 3 or 4 weeks ago whether or not, by a very good friend of mine, whether or not I'd go to New Hampshire. That's turned out to be now a much bigger deal than I had ever anticipated. And perhaps, I don't know, I am going. I made the commitment to go. I made the commitment about 3 weeks ago. And I will go, yes.
You will go. Even though you realize now, in just stepping foot in that state, people are going to presume things.
Well, they can presume whatever they want. I have no intention of running for president, but I'd like the point to get across that we have a great country, but it's not going to be great for long if we're going to continue to lose $200 billion a year. You're going to get into the early 90s, 1990, 1991, and the whole thing's going to blow, because this country cannot continue to support
If only he knew.
And Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and many other countries that are much wealthier than we are. We're not a wealthy country. You can't be a wealthy country when you're losing the kind of money that we're losing.
We're a debtor country.
I mean, that's just amazing, right? So he's been threatening the establishment for decades. That was 1987. I see in the chat some of you are asking, what year is that? It was 1987. Donald Trump on Larry King and laying it all out. And you know what? His story hasn't changed. His criticism of government has not changed. I mean, it's debatable. I understand there's a lot of nuance here. Look, you want to be the world's hegemonic power? That comes with a certain amount of responsibility. Some of you may say, well, I don't need to be the world's hegemonic power. But I'm going to just tell you, one of the reasons the bottom has not fallen out from under, despite this $34 trillion worth of debt, is because we are still the only place that we are the prettiest girl at the dance, but it's not a very good looking dance. All right, that's one way to put it. So like everybody still wants to date us. Everybody still wants to invest in the United States of America. Where else are you going to put your money? Because the U.S. is seen as in charge. American foreign policy has always kind of dictated the day. But now that's very much in limbo. It's in limbo not because of Trump. It's in limbo because of Biden. Consider what's happening there in the Middle East, where he's vacillating on whether or not he's going to stand with his ally Israel, because politically it's not expedient to do so. And then you look at the mess that has become Ukraine and Russia, and the money it's costing us, and the lives being lost on both sides there. I mean, this is not a good look for the Biden administration right now. You couple in the fact that we've got so many people pouring across this U.S. border, and you got a Homeland Security Department that looks, frankly, pretty darn impotent. And so all of these things are coming together now, and it's threatening the system that was.
Man, my tummy hurts.
So you have to make a decision. Okay, if we're going to be the hegemonic power of the world, then we ought to get a little more comfortable with things like trade and tariffs and use those tariffs appropriately. In other words, you want to do business with us? We'll do business with you on our terms. You don't flood the market with your goods, China. I was cracking up. I heard Yellen, Janet Yellen, our now Treasury Secretary, admit that she might be willing to look at tariffs again, re-implementing the Trump tariffs. Think of that. Oh, they were all so mad. He's starting a big fight with China because he's putting in tariffs because, they shouldn't be flooding our markets with their cheap goods, thereby destroying our labor and our ability to succeed. And what is she saying? She's trying to warn China. You know what? The market can't absorb all these goods. You can't keep on producing all this stuff because you're so worried about your domestic economy, reducing prices on the market overall. You can't do it, she says. Well, what does she get to back her up? Trump said, you can't do it because I'm going to tariff you. I'm going to tax you, China. And that's what he did. Okay, so he understood the power and the value of economic policy. And these people, they should get it. Janet's a smart woman. She's got enough degrees in economics. She ran the Fed, for goodness sakes, although that's not exactly a claim to fame these days. But, with all that education, and she can't figure out how to actually play politics. And the politicians can't understand economics and markets. And so we're in a bad spot, which is why it gets back to why I think Donald Trump, despite the various lawsuits, despite the 91 indictments, he might just win this thing. When you got the Michigan Police Union, the largest union for police officers in the United States of America, actually coming out and endorsing the guy with 4 criminal cases against him and 91 counts, that ought to tell you something, right? It's good to see you guys. Yes, I just want to confirm it was 1987. Ian, funny jibe over at Larry. Depends on which wife he was on in terms of knowing the year. David making the point that, yes, Trump was correct then, and Trump is correct now. One of our viewers, Victor, pointing out it's not just gold, but silver as well. Yes, silver has been rallying for sure. Really fascinating to see. It tells you something bigger. It tells you something more. It tells you that the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, is in trouble. And we got a chance here to fix it. We need to take that chance. Please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like, share the likes. I see